Oh, well, hello there.
Hello.
Hopefully, everybody could see us and we could see you all before we start our wonderful, beautiful show. Making sure our audio quality is good there. It's small, but it'll pick up. Hopefully, you all could hear us well. People! What?
Chat is hidden.
No, it's not. It's right in front
Oh, never mind.
of you. That is your specific
Da-
setting. You specifically want to chat. So obviously we got the
Yes.
pre-show where goofy things are happening and other nonsense. Hello, people.
Yay.
Yeah, so pre-game stuff before the show starts. We have our lovely Dusty White drinking a bloody effing Mary with a piece of asparagus because she bougie. Oh, it's a habanero, isn't it? Oh, muffin.
Woo. Okay.
Can hear here. Good. Here. Here. Oh, a hair here. Okay. And I've got the usual old fashioned. Are we going to start with our toast to everybody with our dumb bitch shots? Dumb bitch juice. Dumb bitch juice.
Yes.
It's an old
Okay.
yeah, the one with little floating sediment
is what you
is
do
the
last.
pickle. So the dumb bitch juice is the pickleback. And for those at home who don't know what a pickleback is, it is basically your Irish whiskey first. Irish seems to be the way to go just because of the peat with the pickle. And then you wash it down with pickle juice. So for those that don't like pickles, here's to you. It really does make life so much better. All right.
Hydrating.
Yeah, hydrate. So we do definitely have an audio problem over here, though, because I can't hear my audio cues. I was a dum-dum that put the microphone away, and on the cable, I pinched it in between the boom arm here, and actually kind of snipped some of the wires. So I'm gonna have to go shopping soon for a new USB cable for the stupid thing. If we were smart, we would have used your little Yeti. Oh no, because it's only one way. So never mind then.
Let's get started.
I guess we'll get started the way we usually do if I remember my audio cues on here because I'm not the smartest fox in the world. But yeah. Welcome to Gray Muzzle Geekery. Hi there, and welcome to Gray Muzzle Geekery for the week of April 20th, 2020, episode 48. I'm Dusty Red, and with me as always,
I'm Dusty White.
And let's get right into this week's news.
The basics were the first wave: hand sanitizer, toilet paper, and Lysol. America made way for the second wave of panic buying. Hair clippers and hair dye shelves are ending up empty everywhere today. CNN reports this week that American shopping patterns are serving as a reflection of how the coronavirus pandemic continues to evolve and affect daily lives. Since people are staying home, their focuses have shifted, stated Walmart CEO Doug McMillon. After stocking up on food and consumables, product shoppers turn to puzzles, games, and other timeless forms. Now, without people being able to venture to a hair salon, folks are getting shaggy, and as my co-host likes to remind me and say to me, going full treant, my roots are showing.
Hi, zoinks.
Similar buying patterns weekly were spiral hams and baking products.
Well, that's Easter.
For Easter.
Right.
And basically just interested to see how the trends will continue. If you go bald, you're kind of bald for a while. So
well, again, we just talked last week too that our well, I want to say friends at Una's Honest, but really Ethan Nestor did his hey, if I raise $50,000 for charity, I'll shave my head.
For pandemic charities specifically.
Right. And so he did so in an hour, but he even made the joke. He's like, yeah, I went to the store and Target didn't have any good clippers. And he had youthful long locks that he was trying to shave with like a mustache trimmer or something. And this thing is like you could
You could hear
hear. Oh,
it.
it was brutal. So he's trying to cut his long hair with it. And obviously, eventually, he got some assistance and got it done. But that we didn't really recognize it at the time. Like, okay, he's shaving his head, ha. Oh wait, beauty supplies and all these other things that to do it at home, dye kits and hair cutting and all that stuff. I mean, obviously, I go with the take the razor and just across my head and hope for the best. Really hope for the best. But it seems to be the odd trend of I'm gonna do my own hair. I'm very curious the kind of haircuts we're looking at. I mean, to put a bowl in and get the beetles back. So like,
I mean, personally, for me, I kind of going on the line of if this goes long enough, it's the roots will be the majority of my hair, so I can just cut off the red and start new.
you're not just gonna like go full Britney.
I will never go full Britney. Number one, but I have had a very bad experience in my youth of thinking I knew better than a professional.
Oh,
And
did you try to cut your own bangs?
well, no, I often do trim my own bangs. That I did learn how to do, and actually did it for my mom for a long time too. But as far as hair dyeing, you never really trust that to the box.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I've got dark hair. So guess what? Your dye job is going to be darker unless you bleach it so many times that there's nothing left.
Well, that's how it went. I tried going blonde, and that didn't go well. And then I proceeded to go to the store. I was in college at the time. I proceeded to go to the same store that I had just bought said bleaching and blonde product from and buy jet black. And then dyed my hair jet black. And I had jet black hair for over 3 years till it got long enough that I could cut it off.
Jeez.
Because my mom has always hated my hair.
I walk a lonely road.
My mom has always hated that I dye my hair once I turned 18 and was free to do so.
Your mom doesn't like tattoos,
Yeah, exactly.
everything. Okay.
So I wanted to give her a Mother's Day gift at the time to dye my hair back to kind of my natural hair color.
Wink.
So I went to a salon and I asked them, I said, how do I fix this? And they were like, it would take several sessions and a lot of money.
Right.
And your hair would be destroyed afterwards. The best thing you can do is just let it grow out. And
let
so
it
that's
grow.
what I did.
Let it grow.
I'm pretty frequently a redhead. I do enjoy the red, but yeah.
The baldness never bothered me anyway. Animal Crossing alien broadcasting. So while I personally haven't succumbed to the temptation that is Animal Crossing New Horizons, there's a neat little Easter egg that it's made its way from Animal Crossing New Leaf to Animal Crossing New Horizons. Seems to be a new theme with Animal Crossing. But anyway, have you heard of the 3:33 a.m. alien broadcast? So if you own a TV in Animal Crossing New Horizons and have it turned on at 3:33 a.m. on Saturday, you will see a slightly eerie alien broadcast. It'll last for a minute, and then the static will return to hide any evidence of said broadcast. Do you have any Easter eggs or any such things that you've seen in either movies or games that was like, I get that reference, like that is something clever that kind of pulled out to you, or maybe something that, and even if it's an accidental Easter egg, some of the maybe something modern in an old movie, like a guy in a cell phone in the background when it's a 1950s style movie or something. any weirdness like that.
I always go into any Disney movie looking for them. And
you recently found one too, didn't you?
Yep. I recently, just as kind of like background noise for while I was at work, I threw on Frozen 2. I hadn't really seen it. It's a decent movie, but in the very first handful of scenes, Elsa is playing with her sister. It's a flashback, and they're playing, and Elsa's creating things with her snow magic, and she makes an ice Dumbo, and I
Squeed.
Dumbo is my spirit animal. So I really enjoy seeing
I
stuff like
think
that.
you're a little too white to use terms like spirit animal.
True,
Jeez.
but I like going into a lot of either Pixar or Disney movies. Pixar especially have a lot of
Well,
Easter
they do
eggs.
almost foreshadowing a lot, if I'm not mistaken, with Pixar movies. So they'll actually have hidden Easter eggs to future movies.
Right.
They'll have.
That's burned them in the past before.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I can't remember off the top of my head what movie the Easter egg is found in. I think it's Toy Story 3, but they threw in a newt crossing, like a little newt crossing Easter egg because they were working on a movie about newts, but they ended up scrapping it because it was too much along the same plot lines of Rio, of DreamWorks Rio. So it's burned them in the past, but I like the whole other tangent you can go on to with between Easter eggs and storylines and a few leaps of faith. The whole that Pixar world is completely
One
yeah,
continuous world. It's
world.
all yeah, it's all the main like continuous stream, so to speak.
That's a rabbit hole in itself for sure.
Well, I mean that goes back to the old Saint Nowhere movie or the
Saint
it's,
Almost Fire.
no. It's
Oh,
not Almost Fire, but it's I think it's Saint Nowhere. Or Saint Elsewhere or something about the hospital with the kid that wakes up from a coma.
oh,
But
okay.
you follow that rabbit hole that starts off with, well, these are things in this kid's it is an
Imagination.
imagination. Well, in that imagination, you in that show that happened in that kid's uh, uh, coma,
Right.
basically, there are guest appearances from people. Well, that means that is now pulled into the continuity of like this actually happened. Oh, look, John Cleese is here, which means
Then you open up that whole other world where John
everything
Cleese has been in
in
things.
things, and now he exists in this. So like it gets to the point of even Firefly and
I was just gonna
Aliens. That
mention Whedon's verse or
well, you
Whedon
even have I can't remember what it is, but there's a movie. I'll have to look it up now. I'm going off the top of
Cabin
my
in the
head.
Woods.
Well, no, there's a movie where it's got a scrapyard in the back, and you could actually see, like a Star Wars ship back there, like kind
Oh,
of buried, like scrapped out. I think it's an X-wing or something.
okay.
But if you're looking at that, where there's
That's
a
an Easter egg.
well, not only that, but now if X-wings exist in that world, that now pulls all the Star Wars continuity into this. So it starts glomming onto things in a ridiculous way of like you could I think it's Saint Elsewhere is the show, but there's a Saint Elsewhere continuity or Saint Elsewhere universe that is a full like was it a web diagram or a web chain that just gloms all these other shows because as soon as one show, I mean, again, the biggest reference would be Cheers has a lot of guest cameos as people as, but then so does Frasier because those are the same
Crossover.
world. But then as soon as you have somebody that's in real life shows up from there, then he's an actor in something else. I mean, technically, Ryan Reynolds is canon in Deadpool,
Yeah.
not as Deadpool, but
But
is
it's
canon as well, which means if Ryan Reynolds is an actor in real life in the Deadpool universe, then Deadpool universe is real in our world because Ryan Reynolds actually exists.
this starts to give me like PTSD from spiderweb plot lines.
Oh yeah, I get anxiety just thinking
Like
about it. Of
rocking
like,
back and forth.
am
It's
I the
all
only thing? Does nobody notice me? Am I good?
Get paid $1,000 to binge true crime for 24 hours. This is right up my alley. Magellan TV wants to pay you $1,000 to binge watch true crime for 24 hours and talk about it on social media. Our candidate has a passion for all things true crime. They can handle the creepiest serial killers, the grisliest details, and haunting, spookiest of the paranormal.
Poi poya poya poya. Ha boo boo boo. Prince Abu Boo. Blah blah blah.
That they are willing to stream nonstop 24 hours straight. They go on to list everything you have to watch, and it's a pretty extensive list. And even me as a true crime fan kind of looks at this and goes, I don't know.
Tiger King true crime.
That's all alleged.
Oh, the Carol Baskin truther.
Deadline to apply for this is May 4th. The winner will be notified within 10 business days of the closing date. But they would have to watch
A
the
lot of true crime.
timeline, like 96 minutes of this show, 82 minutes of this show. Like it's the list is very extensive. And even if for me as a true crime fan, I look at it and go, there's gonna be some really bad shows in this. I like true crime, but I like well produced true crime, and there's a lot of stuff out there
Oh,
that is not good.
it's Blair Witch Project meets true crime. It's like shaky camcorder of like, this is Steve. He allegedly shut down the last Blockbuster. Go.
Well, you even have to think of it because I know we watched to kind of segue back to last week when we were talking about it, but Unis Honest did a creepiest video. Like again, they're starting to scrape the bottom because of
Unis. In fairness,
because of lockdown.
So what's funny about it is when we were talking about doing the Unis Honest thing, because again, it's a rabbit hole that we fell down, and I love it, but its charm was in the fact that they were doing it. Hey, if you only had a year to live and do things, here's like some ideas, things to do. You could be a DJ for a day.
Little did they know.
Now the world shuts down and they're stuck behind their computers. And they're used to being gamer streamers, so they could play games or do other goofy things. But now they're stuck behind. Like the goal of Unis Honest was to step away from the computer,
right,
and do things,
experience things,
and
live your life,
and like they even go say, if you only had 1 year to live, here's some things that we would do just to experience. Well, now they're stuck behind closed doors again, and they're definitely scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of quality content. I feel bad because I think it is a genius project. I think it is a great idea. I think it's fun and silly, and it hurts nobody. And again, we are big proponents of let people like things.
right?
So go do it, man. You want to go learn how to blow glass or DJing? That's freaking awesome. But now you're stuck home, and so now they're definitely scraping the bottom of like, hey, let's do Mad Libs with Google
Well, they
Translate.
even did like the
where
Google, like figuring out where you are and trying to like Google Maps and almost like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
Well,
and
the website is like where on earth is you, and it Google Maps pin drops you in a
somewhere.
random location, and without zooming out, you have to basically trail up and down the roads. And usually you go down the road, look for a road sign. Is it in English? Is the first question.
Right.
And then you start putting it together. And then once you have a judgment, you click on Google Maps or the punch out that they give you, click where you think you are. And it gives you how many miles away that you think you are to where you are. And then they give you points based on it. Very clever use of.
And I think it's kind of cool, and I'll get to why I brought them up here in a second, but I think it's kind of cool for that site itself, and even some of these other sites that they've been going to and like testing and almost like you said, scraping the bottom of the internet. It's cool that those sites exist, because that would be something, if I had a kid at home, that would be something I would do with them.
You mean you would introduce your child to Zombocom?
No.
The joys of Zombocom. Welcome. You are now visiting Zombocom.
Maybe for history, but not for geography. But the reason I bring it up is because we happened to watch it yesterday, and they were talking about the creepiest, basically creepy pastas on the internet. And this article about true crime kind of brought up one of those things.
Is it the water tower thing?
Well, Eliza Lamb is a true crime kind of. Everybody that does a podcast or everybody that does a show about true crime eventually gets to Eliza Lamb, because it is a mystery. It is a story, or I mean, it's not a story. It's a true experience. But it everybody goes to that part. But the paranormal part, because they were starting to show videos of paranormal things that happen. And one of the ones that came up was basically like a nanny cam filming somebody crawling from
like a hidden
like your crawl
space
or up in, and it does happen. You move into a location and you either have crawl spaces or space between your walls or something like that, where you might have a squatter that's sharing your food at night and not even know it. And until you start noticing things or missing or moved or things, it could be a ghost. But some people have gone as far as setting up like surveillance. And one of these videos was somebody crawling down and like eating your food at night, watching your television and stuff like that. I then took the leap of,
Oh no.
okay, so we're all in a pandemic now. I'm home 24/7. I mean, I guess in this scenario, I am going to sleep at night, but I'm not nearly out of the house as much. Does that person like,
There's somebody dead in my
yeah,
closet. That's basically what
yeah.
you're saying. You're saying that somebody is dead in my crawl space because they're waiting for me to leave and I haven't left, and they're like, "Well, I guess I die here." Or more importantly, they just pull like a Laszlo from Real Genius.
Oh,
Remember that movie?
oh, nice
Boom!
throwback.
They just crawl out of
Yes.
nowhere and just be like, "I'm done here, bye," and they just leave, and you're just like, "Yeah, okay, bye." I'm glad you remember Real Genius. I'll kill him back. Oh snap! That was for TV Travis, by the way. That's a throw to him. So Niantic is making plans to release Pokemon Go remote raids, which will allow people to stay home during the pandemic and do all of their raiding and other such Go aspects of the game from the safety of their home. My question is, what took them so long? I mean, I don't have the answers, obviously, but there were features like where were the features like this years ago for people who weren't able to play? Like, I don't know, children's hospitals. Let's call a spade here. We can even say any hospital because what 30 something doesn't love leveling up Charizard. But other locations have been like complaining for years that there's an ableist stance on this game. While the term go is in the game, should there be sweeping accommodations for such games? Perhaps different points and skill values are assigned for actually going on the raid compared to staying at home. Unfortunately, ultimately, this particular instance is a cash grab because raid passes cost a dollar, about $1
Right.
each, and in turn, people raiding from home will likely increase the revenue for those who still love to play with their pocket monsters. Easy there. I mean, play with their pocket monster and willing to shell out a couple of dollars to put it to use. So it's a little bit to unpack because it is a good gesture hidden by shitty intent.
Well, and I know we try to stay non-political and try to stay upbeat and positive here in Gray Muzzle,
Hmm.
but
Non-political, yes. Non-religious, yes. Not always upbeat. Says Laszlo coming out of my walls.
Anyway, I'm trying to basically like, it's hard to be on social media nowadays. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I always suggest going on because Instagram is forever positive, but there's definitely the go-to of ableism being kind of in our topic now. I mean, how many jobs out there went from, no, you can't work from home. This isn't something we agree to. This isn't something that we think you will work better from the office. We need you here. We need to be able to keep tabs on you or keep our, like, it's basically almost kind of a weird thing of, we think you work better in a environment, which there are some people
Oh,
that
100%.
do. I am actually kind of one of them. I have struggled with my production as an employee because there
Well,
is so many more at home distractions.
well, you've managed to do something as simple as move the desk, the table here next to the window,
Right.
and it feels like a big office at this point
Yeah, it's a little bit of
compared to
a mind switch.
sitting on the couch behind that you see behind us and like laptop, TV, work. Like there's definitely a mentality shift of going, I'm at work, I'm focused on work, here we go. And it's easy to block out the distractions.
Yeah.
Again, I go to work and it's not less stressful. Like it's in some ways there's something about driving into work with the roads clear that
Right.
is unsettling. There's something that is a very sharp reminder of like in a way you get to be isolated by not seeing everything. I get constantly reminded daily that like shit is going down,
Well,
like
and I
something
kind of and
negative.
kind of like to circle it back to the article, is there was so much of a swing so quickly by a lot of companies, including my own,
Mhm.
that switch to no, work from home, take care of what you need to take care of. We will make allowances. Do like this is where we're in pandemic, we're in shelter in place. So it's going to be different or interesting to see on the other side of this
Mm-hmm.
how much of that mindset returns to normal. And we watched John Oliver today that there isn't going to be, or there shouldn't be, a return to normal.
When
It should
all
be an
says done, right.
identification of this is the new normal.
Right. And we'll see. And that's where we start dancing politics again of universal health care and like other such things. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. We lean on the liberal side of things of saying, I do believe in universal health care. Like, there should definitely be an issue of it shouldn't be in that regard. But it's an argument for another show. The concept still exists of when everything is done, we should be able to look back at the system and go, okay, how did we respond? How did our leaders respond? How did the government respond? How did communities respond? What do we have in case of a plan similar to this? It doesn't have to be exactly another stay-at-home pandemic, but what if we have another disaster or some sort of natural thing? Like, I mean, call a spade a spade. I think we'd learn from like Tornado Alley and stuff like that.
Mhm.
These communities that constantly get destroyed by hurricanes and tornadoes. How do they
Those being
deal?
completely two different.
Well, actually, if you follow the tornado belt, if you follow the tornado belt, it does go towards southeast coast,
So
which
hurricanes.
starts hitting your hurricane
Okay,
stuff.
got it.
But still conceptually, it's the same. Of hey, there's a lot of like insurance plans in place for you're in a risky area.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to constantly rebuild your home because you decide to build it on the ocean where hurricanes hit, once every 3 years.
So to go back to Pokemon Go, I am glad to see.
Wow, we tangent.
But to go back to Pokemon Go, I am glad to see a company that was built on go out and do things, go out and experience the community. Like we made the joke, I think it was last show, that it was like this whole pandemic is kind of the opposite of the Pokemon Go summer.
Pokemon stay the F at home.
Right. And I'm glad to see that companies are kind of still trying to be a company that
but goes back
pushes
to
a product.
But at what point what point do you not give them credit because they know as a consumer that they're making a point to get money off of people who are willing to spend $1 to do it from home. It's not so much of a hey, you know what, we think it's a good idea, let's build community. It's y'all want to pay us $1 to go raid. That's where it becomes, all right, guys, seriously, we've been pushing for years for like children's hospitals and all these other locations for people who can't get out, who can't run around and drive around and be chauffeured and stuff. Even people in more rural areas that don't have access. Like, you get a Pokestop every 5.5 miles. What's the accommodation?
It's funny that you bring that up because now that I'm thinking about it, I actually read an article earlier this week that the rise of reports of weird cars in neighborhoods have risen for police because people are getting in their cars to do stay at home or be sheltered in place.
Oh, kind of like our little adventure.
Yeah.
To say happy birthday to our friend TC. We literally got a few gifts, drove over to her place, left them on the door, knocked on the door, came downstairs and just waved. Hi, happy birthday. And then deuces.
Well, even when we went to the store, I felt a little bad that it was clear, like we were buying balloons, we were buying things that looked like, we're gonna go celebrate.
It looked like we were having a pandemic party.
And I kind of like nervously while we were checking out joked, yeah, we're doing a drive-by birthdaying. And then the register ladies or the shop clerks kind of like, oh,
sigh of relief.
That's so sweet. Like, that's awesome. So yeah, it's interesting to see like the segue between things like Pokemon Go and doing these things and still having ways to go about being positive in a kind of a crazy world that nobody knows what's going on.
So the Brewers Association of America launched another survey designed to gauge the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the effect social distancing has had on small breweries. The result shows a sharp drop in craft category sales, massive layoffs, and the high likelihood of a large number of craft breweries closing. A majority of the breweries have stated that their business can last about 3 months given the current conditions. Most are even reporting a 70% drop in sales, though package distribution volume is up 7.9%. So we're looking a lot more Coors. And for family out in Arizona who buy Coors, mom, I get it. Water is expensive. And like, Miller and Bud and all these packets, even Goose Island for us here local, sell. But all these craft breweries, what do you think?
Um, my heart goes out because I mean that's if anybody has been a long time listener. I mean we're a year in. That's kind of our go to of we
I like
like
longtime listeners 1 year, but I get it.
Hey, I'm the podcast fan. I know of the shows that maybe do 3 or 4 recordings and then they podcast fade.
Oh, it's kind of like in a closet or something. It's like, hello, welcome. Actually, no joke. Side tangent. I was doing fantasy hockey, and like there was this like Carlson and Carlson like podcast hockey thing, and it sounded like the two dudes were recording in the same room, but opposite corners of the room, screaming at the mic like angry tigers at a piece of meat. Like it was just like, what is all the echo? And I can't listen to this. I'm out. And they seem to be knowledgeable. Like a couple of episodes I listened to, like they had stats of like this player, here's what they are after playing right wing, left wing, blah, 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 blah. But I couldn't get past the continue.
And as you couldn't tell, Red is our audio person. So anyway, it's basically breweries were our thing. Breweries will be our thing.
Yeah.
Well, they'll still continue to be a thing because we like going and experiencing breweries and kind of like notating on the themes and things like that. So it's sad to hear that obviously craft brewers are going to suffer. We have several local ones in the area that I follow on Facebook and keep an eye out on, and their weekly postings are, we're open from 3 to 7 for curbside pickup. Come pick up your 6-pack of your favorite thing or your 4-pack, or hey, we're releasing this because they still have to produce something. Like they can't. I would hope that they might be able to find government relief.
Well, one of our locals, Skeleton Key, was having issue with canning, and they actually reached out to another local brewery, Pollyanna, and was able to borrow some cans. They're like, "Hey, we out of cans. Could we borrow some?" We're like, "Yeah, bro, here you go." And so they even made a joke about it. It's like, "Yeah,
brewing companies and communities coming together."
Well, I think that's the big thing. It's less company, it's more community.
Yeah.
Because no one's gonna make
local
the same
brewery.
beer.
Your community supports your local brewery,
and local breweries support each other, which is the nice thing about it. Because you'll have some beers that are weird and different tastes, and that's the nice thing about beer. It's like wine, really. It is. It's kind of a renaissance. Like nowadays, the last 20 years with all the microbrews, really does feel like a renaissance of wines. That everybody has their own taste, everybody has their own interest, everybody has their own flavor, and rather than segregating, we keep the whites only. I mean, white wines only over there, and the red wines over here. It's, you like this? Well, what do you like about this? What do you like about this? Maybe we can mix these notes. Maybe we could do this and do this. And they experiment together. They often collab with each other. They'll use.
I just had a vision of Yzma and Kronk in the layer and going
the poison for Cusco. Cusco's poison chosen specifically to kill Cusco.
But the lab coats and the stuff like that. That's
that poison.
But yes, that poison. But instead of the lab coats, you got the lumberjack look going, and the brewer. I
don't want to see Yzma in a lumberjack beard. Wrong liver. But yeah, so it's good. I'm hoping that again. We can only stress so much. support local breweries, go buy gift cards, etc., etc. Like I don't want to downplay that, but at the same time, go and do it. Like we bought some stuff, we picked up a couple things. I know a friend of mine like specifically got like 4 growlers delivered to his house. Um, keep them,
I,
keep them. What's out?
I remember seeing that.
Well,
And
you saw the photo. I was like, oh, sweet. And you're like, I know that
it's
guy.
local to me in DeKalb, so I get it. So hoping kind of playing into that article, so hoping that it isn't affecting a unique brewery located in Gothenburg, Sweden. Odd Odd Island Brewing that opened in 2015 by Peter Ewers and Daniel Svensson.
Not to Sven. I knew it. I was like, when is it going to be a Sven or Jorgensen or Smurgenbergen?
Former drummer and former bassist of the iconic Swedish death metal band In Flames. Gothenburg, being the craft beer capital of Sweden, was a perfect place for them to open, since also being the birthplace of melodic death metal, the subgenre that melds guttural growls with harmonic vocals and sweeping, face-melting melodic guitar riffs. In Flames happens to be one of the bands that made it famous in the late 90s. The band experienced the craft beer renaissance of the early 2000s, and from there they started brewing their own on their off time, and they liked doing it so much that they opened Odd Island Brewery with state-inspired brews such as an American Pale Ale, Citravin, light sours called Howlin' Passion, and porters, which are go by hardwood porters.
I am curious to get my hands on one of those light sours.
Right?
Oh, that'd be good.
But in the article they go on to talk about they almost, when they were touring the states, they themselves went through a they were so used to Budweiser, Coors, light, all these like
Water.
easy to drink beers because you're there focusing on getting drunk.
Well, and it's also
with no flavor.
Well, you're also dealing with sponsorship.
Yeah.
Hey, this tour is brought to you by Bud Light, so they've got. I mean, you just watched your boy Rob Thomas do a Bud Light thing, and
Bud Light tour. Yeah.
And I get it. He is sponsored by Bud Light, so he's got it. But everywhere you look, we're like cans and promotion adding, and I'm like, oh, Rob, you sell out. I love you, but but I do get the point of, hey, your concert's sponsored by Bud Light. Mm-hmm. You're gonna drink a bunch of Bud Light. We've also established that Bud Light is like water, except water is expensive. So I get it.
But they talk about how they grew as artists as well as beer fans.
I don't want to say grew. You got older.
But you grow as artists and you can grow as consumers, and even as our tastes and profiles change. So they're early touring, they're going and they're drinking to get drunk, instead of, as you get older, you're like, oh, okay, drunk's not really great. I don't like feeling like the hangover
garbage on Monday morning or something.
Sure. But they realized for several years that they were getting, like, people donate to locations that throw beer, throw performances all the time. Sure. So they were like, oh, they would take a swig and they'd throw it away because it was gross. It was a brown bottle with like a green label, and they would throw it away because they didn't like it. It was fruit inspired or something like that. But they talk about it in the article that they realized much later, when they started to like that flavor, or, hey, I like to actually taste flavor in my beer, that they had been throwing away this great craft brews for years.
It's less of a, as you said, less getting drunk and less just like, I'm drinking flavored water. And now I'm a little older, I don't want to get drunk. Like if I'm gonna have 2 beers or 3 beers, I mean, I'm a cheap date, so if I want to have 5 beers, I ain't drinking 5 beers. But if I'm gonna have 5 beers, I'm gonna make it war. I'm gonna make it my night memorable. I'm gonna have good 5 beers, and a lot of times too, that craft beer's got a 6%, unless it's you and you're like a 15.5 or something like that. You crazy lady, why'd you shove it to me in a shot glass? Because it's 15%. Shut up, drink it. No, I am kind of similar. I didn't drink a lot of beer growing up, but I did drink hard alcohol.
Right.
And I'm starting to plateau out of. I know what I like. I like my old fashioned. I like Four Roses. Not a paid sponsorship,
But
but
could be.
could be. Um, I like my Four Roses. I like something simple, a little simple syrup for the sweetness. Like I'm down with that. I don't need. I like the flavor. The getting drunk is a nice
Well,
byproduct.
you don't even like. I mean, I'm of the age, and I'll be honest. I don't even like getting drunk. I like getting
Buzz. But
buzzed.
still drunk technically. But
But
I enjoy the buzz, but the buzz is a byproduct of the actual the flavor and the enjoyment
right,
of the process. I'm that's again gray muzzle. That's what you get. Like we're gray
yeah.
muzzles. We like that stuff. So beer.
So it's good to see a company or a brewery talk about how they themselves didn't they weren't hipsters. They're obviously they're in a genre of music that prides themselves on their genre of music, and then realized no, our upon becoming better artists or coming into this world and touring in the States, we also became aware of
Cognizant.
of
They're not werewolves.
the flavor to actually drink to enjoy the
Sure.
experience, not just slam beers and not taste them. So it's that's why I picked that article.
We should shoot an email so we can get them on the show. I don't know if how well they speak English. It could just be like, "Welcome to the show, Smorgan Bergen." Like, all right, good talk. And yeah, I guess that concludes this week's news. So, what are we going to do? Because you see, things are weird at this time, and normally I have like some sort of adventure. Hey, I beat up some nerd with foam sticks. Nope.
We would be. I don't want to bring the podcast down right now and some of our fans here, but we would be LARPing right now.
Well, this is a LARP weekend, isn't it?
It is.
It snowed yesterday, though, so F that.
Yeah, but I've had a couple of conversations with people like, oh, don't like snow so bad. Let's go walking in it. I don't want to, and be like, no, I LARP in this stuff. Come on, this isn't bad. But instead, we kind of have find ourselves going on more rabbit holes than adventures at this point. So let's kind of repeat last week and go on a rabbit hole. Down the rabbit hole.
So, what do you got for us this week?
So, I know we've talked about it before. We are big comedy fans. Both you and I have very similar tastes in comedy. A little bit of dark humor, a little bit of social. Okay, a lot of bit of dark humor and a little bit of social commentary. Take. So we wanted to talk about this week because right before all of this happened, we happened to talk about South by Southwest getting canceled.
Correct.
And one of the
that was like the first sign.
Right. And one of the articles that I mentioned in that week as well was Netflix starting to do a Netflix comedy tour. Well, I think obviously things have changed and things have been rearranged, but at the same time, Netflix on a almost weekly basis now have released very widespread and large comedy shows or
they call them specials.
Yeah, special,
but
Netflix
they're not
specials.
special.
But we've watched several of them over the last couple of weeks because, again, it's a good 42 minutes worth of time to sit and
it's under
kind
40.
of forget
it's
your problems.
Under 45 minutes, so I could pay attention.
So some of the ones that we're going to talk about are ones that have been recently released, a few that are a little older, and then even towards the end of it, we're going to talk about one that is almost changing the game, and I give them a lot of credit for it.
Well, we split here, so be careful. Let's see where you're going to go with this.
So one of the first ones we watched was Tom Segura. And
who is still one of my favorite comedians.
Yes.
Easily one of my favorite comedians. He's very intelligent. He is now doing the language barrier because he is from where's his family from? Yeah, I think his mom is from Peru and his dad is straight up American. Mm-hmm. And so he speaks fluent Spanish. He does not look like someone on the street that you would meet who would have I don't want to say perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect language, but like perfect Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And you look and go, okay, but he's challenging himself to do comedy acts in Spanish, which you have to be careful with because it is now a new concept of writing. Words that are puns don't mean the same thing in Spanish. Words that are jokes don't emphasize the same punchline when you're dealing with different languages. You have to craft your art around that language because he's an intelligent comedian who will use alliteration or use his laughter, use his no, like something like that. Like, but he has things about him that is very, very well done as a comedian.
I feel like that's a part of the craft is the time. Like
Comedic
timing
timing,
is
100%.
such an important tool in comedy, and you don't notice that it's important until you watch somebody that doesn't have it.
Yeah. I mean, we've been to enough amateur shows and like beginner, and I never will poop on a beginner. However, you will see some beginners and go, there was way too much pause there, or the joke is great. That's usually what I see. Honestly, jokes aside, what I usually see is a joke is funny. The concept is really, really good. The puzzle pieces of the words don't fit though. The joke is great. It's a great premise. It's a great picture. It's something universal. I think at a Fur Fest, I can't remember which. I think maybe First Squared like 3 years ago, somebody was doing a comedy bit that it fell flat, but the concept was how many human bones are in in the ground
Ugh.
from the beginning of man to now. How many effing bones are there? It's a great concept that makes you go, there was a lot of dead mother effers. But it takes a level to craft that. So the concept's good to begin with.
So you almost
but
have you almost, and I would imagine that that's why you have comedic writers. One of my favorite, like to kind of circle back to news, true crime. One of my favorite true crime podcasters is a comedy writer. She's great on her own, but she's probably struggled much longer than she should have as a comedic writer or doing the comic scene on her own. But she ended up working for Ellen, or you see Mulaney even worked for SNL for
well,
a
John
long
Mulaney
time.
was a writer for a long time
Right.
too.
So you have people that, I mean, even in songwriting, you have people that can have the ideas, but still need to apply
You
it
need
to
to
somebody
perform
that
it.
can perform
You
it.
become an
TV
actor.
Travis does a great job. Good material still needs good delivery, and that
100%.
comes with experience.
And someone like Mulaney, who is weird in his own right.
Oh, I love
'cause
Mulaney.
I love Mulaney too. I love Mulaney, but he is kind of an exception in that regard. He does not look like, I mean, he said it himself, I don't look like I've done anything. But and part of it is, I don't want to say, what is it? Skills are learned, talent is natural. He has natural talent, just the way his cadence is, the way he talks, the way his accent, the way he looks. Tall, lanky, goofy 14-year-old in a suit. Like,
Right.
there's something about it
14.
that's something about it that's naturally funny. So you get that. Like, yeah.
He's unassuming.
He is very unassuming for sure. And then he goes on and says, I was an alcoholic. I'm like, you're 22. How are you an alcoholic?
So we watched Segura, who again, like,
One of my
is
favorites,
one of
hands
your
down.
favorites. We recently watched, I mean, within a day of it being released, was Chris. I always want to mispronounce this, but D'Elia.
Chris D'Elia.
Okay, so Chris D'Elia.
Pumpkins, you get into it, pumpkins, pumpkins, flamkins.
So hold on, just a second.
Pumpkins.
So I came to be a fan of Chris D'Elia on a different level than Red did. I remember watching the show Whitney, which is another female comic who I do like, who I've
she hit her stride and then she kind of faded.
No, that's not true. She
went to podcast though.
She went into podcast, but she still has her most recent special was only open in like 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
But she's Whitney Cummings, basically, is who I'm talking about. But Whitney Cummings got a show, which most comics do. I mean, you talk about
one of our other favorites, but
Raymond, or we'll talk
Jay
about
Leno.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, she got a show on NBC, and I loved that show. It was really short, and
It was actually really clever.
It was good. It was really good, and it was Whitney Cummings goes on to get another show as a writer producer, which is I want to say Rich Girls or Poor Girls or something. I'll have to look that up.
Oh, Two Broke Girls?
Yes, Two Broke Girls. That's
Okay.
it. Thank you, Red.
How do I know that? You don't.
But Chris D'Elia ended up being Whitney's significant other on that show. And they had a chemistry, and he was really great on that show. I didn't realize he was a comedian until much later.
I've only ever knew him as a comedian.
Right. And I struggle with D'Elia just because some of his stuff is like, there's a line of I laugh at my own jokes that
drives you up a wall.
Yeah, and
I drive you up a wall. I do that.
Like I've had relatives in my life that were dry humor, and the only person laughing at their jokes were them. So it's kind of a like.
How do you deal with me again?
I actually find you very funny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I find myself freaking hilarious,
but D'Elia does a good job of kind of writing that line for me. I think his most recent special is way more engaging or interesting than his previous ones. They still have moments of what am I watching? But he does a good job of, you look at him and you're like, I know we've talked about it before. You look at him and go, you have a smell.
When I say he had a smell, like just looking at him. Oh, I can't think of it now. It was anyway.
Because we had cold Chipotle or lukewarm Chipotle.
Oh yeah, no, he looked like a bowl of
lukewarm chicken Chipotle burrito bowl.
Yeah, he looked like yeah, that's right. I looked at him like, yeah, he looks like what a lukewarm bowl, chicken bowl from Chipotle would smell like. Like that's like, I don't know. Anyway, I like D'Elia. I think it was interesting this last special that he just did because he now has a new level of fame / accreditation / whatever you want to put it.
Because
of his role with, well, first he did the impersonation of Eminem of the Bamkins, too many napkins, Blamkins gonna get a divorce and Harrison Ford and the floorboards, like doing that bit. Eminem tweeted it out and kind of got him a new rise in fame. And it sounds like I'm belittling him and doing that, but I don't mean to. Like, it just brought a new audience and group of people that was like, holy crap, that's funny. Then he goes on and Eminem does him the favor by going, hey, you should be in this video for Homicide, which is by
another artist,
which is Eminem and Logic, which that's a whole other rabbit hole I went down that we could do later. Because I went down a full like Eminem discography.
He really did.
Oh man, I could have even almost rap some of the stuff. No, I am not rapping. Quite. So it's a case of him getting that extra boost from Eminem, and now in a way, I guess the pressure's on him to perform, and he kind of delivered on it.
He did.
He went, hey, there's a new level of fame. There's a level now I have to reach up to. And like Bill Burr, like our soon-to-be mentioned comedian, which is probably both of our favorites, having their own podcast, having their own shows, allows them to rubber duck jokes, allows them to throw stuff off the wall and see what sticks. Hey, this is funny. Hey, this sounded dumb. Because you could write all the jokes in your head, but until you verbalize it.
I want to know what filter, no spoilers here, but I want to know what filter that little skit with the sergeant got through that ended up on a Netflix special. That's all I'm saying.
It's just... But it's probably one of those things you verbalize with friends, you verbalize with people. Because at one point with the Chris D'Elia thing, you're like, how is this funny? And it's a case of he probably performed it to his friends who are high.
Right.
And it's hilarious.
And I think that even goes a step further because, I mean, out of this special, I didn't realize he was straight-laced.
Yep.
That he was, and I mean, he even calls himself out and goes, I know I look like this.
I look like I drug deal to myself. But he doesn't
But
do
I don't.
drugs.
He
He doesn't
doesn't
drink.
drink.
He's a straight
Yeah,
lace.
that's crazy. To kind of go from somebody that's straight laced to completely open about not being straight laced, we honestly tried to think which one of us showed what to each other, but it was Daniel Sloss.
Oh, the Sloss Nest monster.
If you haven't seen it, he's been on Netflix for a little bit. He's not one
He's
of
got
the
2
new
shows.
release, but it's after shows. It's Daniel Sloss after shows,
And
and
one of
it's
them
2
is
episodes.
it's Darkness and Jigsaw.
Yes. And
Jigsaw, be ready for an emotional ride.
he is, when I say dark humor, he's not, what's the one, is it
Anthony Jeselnik.
I couldn't even at dark humor, I was like, okay, I can't.
Anthony Jeselnik has a good delivery because he's very monotone. Kind of reminds me of Stephen Wright.
Okay.
Of the, I kicked a baby. It bounced twice. It's a good day. Like, has that kind of monotone. Like, what the hell am I listening to? Jeselnik is really, really, really good, but he's still kind of pushed the envelope, pushed a little bit more. But then you dance that line between he's pushing it so far that it no longer becomes relatable.
Right.
Sloss all day long.
It's like he
relatable.
flirts with that line. He flirts out
yeah.
with that line, but then he turns it and goes, "Nope, now I make it
This
relatable.
is relatable.
I pushed it, now I turn it back."
I mean, the prime example is have you ever wished that a significant other would die? And then you're like, what? But then he talks about like abusive and negative relationships where you're like, if my significant other just died, it makes everything easy. I wouldn't have to be in this relationship anymore. I don't have to deal with the breakup. I don't have to deal with all this other stuff. And you do stop and go, oh shit.
So I really like Daniel Sloss. I have suggested it to friends in the past because again, it's not as well known as your Seguras, your
Rogans,
your Rogans,
your Bill Cosby.
But he is really good. He's Scottish, so that's one for the girls.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit of the accent and kind of does something for me. But he is also really good, and we rewatched it recently.
Yep.
We watched Darkness a long time ago, but we tried to watch Jigsaw, and I had to turn it off. I was like, a little bit too relatable. Let's not watch this right now. So I went back to it and watched all of it, and still had moments of, wow, this is a little too relatable. But he is also really good. So now to who we've kind of been flirting about through this whole thing, as somebody I have seen more times than any other comedian that I've ever that I love.
Probably one of my favorite comedians. Like up there
he's one of our watchers' favorite, or actually one of our Patreon's favorites as well. Christopher Titus.
Oh, Titus.
So a little bit of back history on me. I have loved Titus since he had his Fox show.
Yep.
I watched Titus on Fox religiously because I just thought he was so funny.
Well, did you find just him or the material? Because the dysfunctional family
was definitely him and his father.
And this was early 2000s?
Oh, earlier than that.
No, this is like mid-90s.
Midnight, yeah.
So that you're still riding that trend of poking on the nuclear family, much like The Simpsons, which obviously was earlier than that, but you're still got the concept of the nuclear family this is perfection. This is, 2.5 kids.
It definitely,
and mom and dad
I was going to say it rode more of, and some of my other favorite shows growing up were, I used to kind of secretly watch Married with Children. My dad kind of didn't like that show.
That was a poke at, Christina Applegate is, but it poked at the nuclear family as well. And
Married with Children,
things aren't
Happily Ever After.
Okay.
Which was also a kind of like as much as I came from a very nuclear family, I liked Bobcat Goldthwait. What voiced the?
I'm sorry. Bobcat.
He voiced the rabbit. And Titus, they were the broken down, like the broken family.
Absolutely.
They played off of that. It was, you might have Full House on Friday nights at 7:00 on TGI Friday, but at 7:00 on a Sunday night on between Simpsons and a Beavis and Butthead or whatever,
You're aging
you
yourself now.
had I'm well aware. You had shows that were more about, no, we're dysfunctional. We know we're dysfunctional.
We're putting the
but
fun
we're
in dysfunctional.
but we're making yeah, exactly. We're making it fun. So Titus was a show I really, really liked as like a teenager, preteen kind of situation. Probably far too young in my life that I should have been watching it. But
Explains a lot.
later on, I found myself. I feel like he was probably on Comedy Central at some point. Like Comedy Central used to be where you went to go see stand up or a series of stand ups
Sure.
or side like whatever. So I think I kind of always followed Titus without realizing I was like a comedy fan or a comedy, like what do you call them, chuckle sluts.
Chuckle slut. You are.
I didn't
I'm a chuckle slut
realize
too, though.
I was a chuckle slut.
I used to watch all kinds of old, like weird, obscure comedians, and I used to have, because I don't know if we get it here in Chicago, but when I was up in Milwaukee, we used to be able to get the Bob and Tom show,
Okay.
which is technically I think it's based in Indiana, but it's syndicated to a bunch of airwaves. I used to work third shift security, so from 4:30, 5:38. Well, actually 4:30 because they're East Coast. So 4:30 for me until 8:30 a.m. when I'm still at work. Bob and Tom would be on, and Bob and Tom was say what you want about it because they are kind of the pinnacle of the radio laugh track and whatnot. They still did a really good job of getting these obscure Hayward Banks and what's your you got a rough voice and talk like this and you go and Jeff Gordon's gay and he's got the songs like that. He's a singing
Stephen Lynch.
That's not Stephen Lynch. I'll have to look him up and I'll post it in the Twitter or something else. But guys like that were road comedians. They were not big, but Bob and Tom pushed them. They pushed hey, these are guys that are local. These are guys that are
I feel
small
like they
club
were
funny
like
stuff.
the prelims to what became popular later, which was like the blue comedy.
I mean, they
or
kind
blue
of
collar
they
comedy tour.
definitely had oh, I can't think of it. I'm trying to think of his real name, but I'm just gonna go with Larry the Cable Guy.
Okay.
They definitely had him on and like talked about stuff, and so it's cool to see shows like that, as cheesy as they could seem, to see those kind of comedians like really pushing the envelope of. They never talked about Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
At the time, I mean, yeah, we know now what he is, but in mid '90s, as big as
you're not going to talk about the popular people when you're trying to push the underdogs.
the underdogs in there. So Bill Hicks is
Okay.
still. I mean, he's a legend, but he's still small time.
I almost
stuff,
think of
not
the
many
same thing of Bill
specials,
Burr too.
I mean, Bill Burr's got a couple specials out there, and he's got a TV show, but he's still a level of. Bill Burr's also a little polarizing because he's got hard stances, which is hard to believe if he actually believes them. He does the whole like, yeah, pandemic's great. I can hear lanes of traffic opening up as I'm going.
Well,
like,
I was gonna say it kind of circles back to D'Elia because he talks about, he's like, I'm a performer. Like that's part of why we're here is I can say what I want on this stage.
a funny man makes jokes, but I'm not like this in real life.
Right, exactly. Right. But to go back to Titus, I've seen him 3 times now.
I've only seen him once, and I have a picture of him with him. He is big.
He's very tall.
I am not. I am very small.
But I have been a Titus fan for a very, very long time. I've liked everything that he's ever put out. But on that same note, he tends to play the game a little different. He's and we've talked about this, and I kind of want to almost take your hot air over there. But I do wonder because Fox kind of did him wrong.
He opened his mouth and Fox went, all right, you out.
So he's kind of been shied away from doing anything other than promoting himself. He promotes himself. Him and his wife, his second wife, who is also a comedian.
It's still his wife.
Right.
Numbers are irrelevant.
Who is also now a comedian. They promote themselves. They push themselves. They advertise. They do everything a lot on their own. I can't in my right mind think of anything on Netflix that they've done or promoted on Netflix or anything like that, where some of these other comedians that I am a fan of are hard Netflix. Like one of my favorite female comedians, Eliza, is a Netflix doll. Like
Sure.
Netflix loves her. She's producing a special every year. She now has a
Yeah.
comedy show.
Yeah, the comedy show is questionable, but
Yeah. But she's built her career on being from Netflix. Um but Titus does it on his own time and he does it on his own way.
sells
And
his own albums. He does off his website. He does it off of Spotify. He makes a point to go, I'm not going through Fox again or major producers. I am doing this all
and
myself.
he does his own podcast, which is really good.
Again, going back to
Armageddon.
our previous conversation of people using podcasting to bounce comedy ideas.
Well,
The rubber
I
duck
almost kind of feel like he's a little bit different only because he's been doing it longer. He's been doing Armageddon Report for several years.
for sure.
Some of these new artists that are getting into the podcast game are
Well, Bill Burr's been doing it for a long time too.
but I kind of, to be a critic of somebody I've already mentioned, was Whitney Cummings has kind of come
Sure.
into it. Segura with his wife has kind of come into it
Sure.
recently. They've realized that it's a medium that is beneficial to do and it's easy to do and it's
very
something that they can do.
There's
I do
two
it Monday
idiots
through Thursday.
There's two idiots here doing it now. It's not that difficult.
They can do it Monday through Thursday, still perform Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then go back to podcasting Monday through Thursday and have a room in their apartment or their house or wherever that they do it, and
Or drag out a table and slap a mic to it.
But Titus has been doing podcasting for a long time, and he also does podcasting with other people. He does it with a friend, and it's more of a conversational than
Correct.
hey, I'm just talking to myself, self-masturbatory bullshit.
So much for the swearing. Jeez. Continue.
Anyway, the reason I bring him up is because he's also now changing the game mid-pandemic.
Yep.
He has now released one every
Week-ish.
week or every other week of his specials on YouTube. Full special, no commercials, no advertising, no nothing. Here, I've put it on YouTube.
Here's my comedy.
Here's my stuff. Now he's going even further, which is why I'm bringing this up, because I want to see people support this, because I see it being a trend. And I almost want to kind of be like, I want to get on this trending bus of he is actually doing an event May 2nd. I'm going to pull it up.
See, I wanted you to have this prepared.
I ran out of time. In the basically May 2nd, so 7 p.m. Pacific time, which would be 9 p.m. our time, Central. You can log into YouTube. It's an event through
9 hours.
It's a event through eventbrite.com, and it is going to be a pay $10 and come see my most current special. Not film, like he even mentions it. He's like, it's not filmed by an an iPhone by my mother in my kitchen. It is actually going to be a 3-camera filmed comedy show.
Has it already been filmed?
He doesn't
or is
specify.
He filming it live here?
He's just saying that this is a professionally shot 3-camera comedy show, not broadcast from his kitchen on his iPhone by his mom. The show will take place Saturday, May 2nd. Approximate running time is 90 minutes.
So that might be the show that he was talking about, where he was talking about the really messed up stuff, the dark stories with his family.
It is called Carrying Monsters, so that kind of correlates. So I feel like this is kind of on like if the pandemic continues and the shelter into place happens or continues to happen, this is where a lot of things need to go towards. If comedians are going to start basically getting some type of income, because they're not going to shows, they're not, like, comedy places aren't obviously having performances. This is, hey, I need to perform. I still need to be able to provide.
This is how I make money.
This is how I make money. But he is clever enough to do it in a way of, I'm not filming this on Facebook Live or Instagram or whatever. I'm producing something that's worth your $10. I kind of had a dumb blonde moment and went, oh, it'll be $20 for both of us, not realizing, no, it's
Yeah,
$10
I was like, yeah, it should
for...
be $10. And you're like, oh, but we got to buy 2 tickets. I'm like, it's on my TV, dum dum. What are you
I just
talking
wanted
about?
to tip Titus, that's all.
I mean, we can tip Titus. Hashtag tip Titus.
So I know we will be taking place in that. Like,
I'm planning on seeing it.
I have
I'm a
sent
big
it
Titus
to
fan,
somebody
so.
that is a big fan. Like, both of the times I've seen him,
Our-
actually all 3 times that I've seen him, and Darth Mom, Darth Mama, Blue over here.
Travis, not TV Travis, but hopefully TV Travis will watch too.
TV, yeah, I was gonna say Travis
But
too.
our artist Travis.
Are big Titus fans. The 3 times I've seen him in Chicago, in Schaumburg, at the Improv, was with Darth Mama and her husband, and so it's a good feeling for me, and I sent it to them immediately when I saw it. But May 2nd, 9 p.m., we will probably be partaking in that, and maybe recording about it afterwards. But I want to end on, we're gonna run a little long this week today because
we're worried about running short, and you just kept going.
I'm Gabby today. So the part I wanted to end on is one of the ones we've seen recently, which is Hey Big Boy, Bert Kreisner.
Hey Big Boy.
He his special released a couple of weeks ago, and you may know him as the Machine,
the shirtless guy, the shirtless fat guy that talks about being, I am the Machine.
He released a new Netflix special, and he is definitely great. I like him lots. There's a couple of moments in his special I was like, okay, that's the kind.
He's dude, bro, fat boy.
Yeah. But he's really funny, and I like him. I like he is another one of those that rides that fine line of laughing at his own jokes. But I actually, between the Machine and falling in love with him when he did Hot Ones. He gets really and he's Tom Segura's like best friend. They do a podcast
You also like
together.
him from Secret Time.
Secret Time, yep. Secret
Time. And he tells me. What's this like? Secret Time. My wife looks like Elvis when she has an orgasm.
So he's really great, and I like him. But we accidentally stumbled on a YouTube video where he gets to answer questions. And the
questions are what got us to this point.
Right. And the question kind of segues into talking about, we obviously answer listener questions and things like that. But the question that struck a chord in me and was very interesting is, if you could be aware of any statistic,
if somebody could present you a stat
of your life,
what
statistic would it be and why?
Do you want to go first, or am I going first in this?
I think you should go first.
I was thinking about it a little bit, and it kind of hit me on some other concepts of kind of thinking about your obsessions and stuff. I am very curious to know, of all the people I've met in my life that I maybe have gone to school with, that I have served and or waited upon or got whatever, somebody that I've interacted, minimum arm's length, killed another human being. I am very curious if a little bing, you've met 5 people who have murdered a mother effer, like, oh.
And to, again, kind of go off of that statistic, there is a theory on the higher end of things that you would be surprised that that's probably more of a higher number than you think it is.
I mean, you didn't you bowl at a guy that killed a stripper or killed somebody at a bouncer or something like that?
Oh, I was not prepared for this story. So
allegedly,
because I don't know where in the process it
allegedly.
There was somebody that I happened to used to bowl with.
Allegedly.
No, I definitely bowled with him. I had drunken conversations and nights with him because he went to the local bar down the street from my house at the time. He was an okay guy. Like, he was a little like,
don't defend him. He was an okay guy up until he murdered somebody. Allegedly.
So allegedly, he was probably out another night that I could have actually been drinking with him that night. I don't know for sure. But he went from the bar he was at to the where I used to live was a kind of questionable strip
There was
of.
like a strip of like 4 houses that were air
It
quote wink
wasn't
wink
four houses. Okay,
houses.
so in the where I used to live, there was a strip of a highway, basically an attachment highway of there is a sex shop, a massage parlor, and then a straight up.
Did they have the air quotes? Like, did they actually just put quotes on this on the billboard?
They were intended.
Massages.
They were intended quotes. You walked by, and then it was called. It was a place called the Bella Room.
Oh, jeez.
So we don't even know. Like, I'm assuming it was like a strip club. But the problem is it was a strip club that was basically being ran out of a double wide.
Right. It wasn't a like classy strip club, free breakfast for third shifters and everything else. This is like sticky floor, sticky doors, like
It was
sticky
questionable, and it
floor,
was
sticky
like
doors, sticky horse. Like that's what this place is.
Anyway, allegedly he left a drinking establishment, went down the street, went to this location. There was an exchange of money that happened. However, he claimed to have gotten robbed. And then he went home, got a gun, and drove back. And then
Allegedly.
allegedly shot the bouncer, like on the stairs of this double wide. So we were all a little shocked when it came up on the local, like basically popped up on Facebook of this is what happened. Like he felt like he was right in his avengement of being
Stife
basically
money. Yeah.
stolen out of his credit card or a big charge run on his credit card, and then additional cash was stolen from his wallet. He felt like he was avenging something. So I technically have a hometown murder. But
I'm
there's
from
a
Chicago. That's called Tuesday.
there's a theory out there that you would be surprised how many of a higher number there would be of on the additional to almost succeed your stat of how many serial killers
Oh,
you've
that's
met.
creepy. Oh, he's got like a foot in the freezer or something. Like what? Bleh, bleh.
So I have been thinking about this for the last couple of days since we saw the video. I think
You've been thinking about it. Now you're gonna think even more. We're running out of time. Let's go.
I think one of the statistics I would like to see is how many people have either been attracted to you, fallen for you, or have secret feelings for you as a statistic.
Define secret feelings because I hate a lot of people and I don't tell them.
Oh, that's a good call. I didn't even put it in that thing. I was thinking more on the positive
Oh no no no!
figure
No. Okay okay
of this person has blah feelings towards you.
okay.
Statistics of you've met this many people and this many people feel this
Fair.
versus obviously this person secretly hates you.
Got it.
You cynic.
Maybe another stat would potentially be interesting in the regard of how many people have actually taken your advice. Like you might
Ooh.
have said something and given somebody advice and like, hey, this is my suggestion. Do as you went, and you go back and like, bing, one person used your advice. Like,
So to counter that, I would almost wonder how many ask holes I've encountered in my life, because you have
ask,
those
ASKHOLES.
because
Okay,
you have
I
those
just gotta
people
make
in
sure
your
I'm not
life.
censoring this later. So
You have those people in your life that are like, "Hey, I want to ask you your opinion," and you listen to their
spout.
story, you understand, and especially for me, who tends to be a more logically minded person,
Mm-hmm.
I will give. In my scenario, if I was in this position, this is what I would do. But a lot of times, those people don't take your advice.
No, they don't.
So that would be my asshole
Interesting.
statistic.
So again, we put it out to any of our listeners who are still here. If you have any questions or possible answers or anything you want to go off what we're talking about, you could drop us an email at grandmusclegeekery@gmail.com. You could poke us here on Grand Muscle Geekery on Twitch, or we're on YouTube now. Holy Nikes, we got a YouTube channel. We're actually uploading
Never
some
in
of these
my
videos.
life would I thought that I would ever have been on YouTube.
I mean, YouTube, yay! I'm not expecting great things, but hey, why not? We can put it there. It turns into Unisonus and we delete it in a year. Who cares? But it's fun. Again, we are always opening for questions. We are for content we're looking for, because obviously things are running a little dry. Let's call a spade a spade. It's a little difficult to kind of grab news, because news is day 76. I'm still at home.
I want to put out there right now, because this is a conversation that I need to have. So you've made fun of me for my I use physical in the wrong context. I'm gonna start a drinking game where call a spade is your drinking bingo card.
You don't like use a spade though.
But maybe that's because I hear it so frequently from you that's why I'm calling you out.
So when she says physically and I say spade a spade, everybody at home gets to drink.
Social
drinking, social drinks and sing. Wait, that doesn't work. Anyway, so yeah, again though, if you guys want to send us whatever, we have a Discord channel. We're always pretty active on there, especially lately. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitch, Twitter, you name it.
Instagram, Facebook.
Just look for Great Muscle Geekery. We've gotten to the point now where you really can't find us, which is pretty exciting. So we're good there. Number one search. What? Other than that, though, I guess we're gonna close the show like we usually do with our quote from Travis: is that, hey, we are all geeks, and to be otherwise may very well mean to live without passion. You have a good night. Thank you for listening to another episode of Gray Muscle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/graymuzzlegeekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at graymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter at graymuzzlegeek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page.